A blood-soaked Xander plunged his serrated blade deep into the human soldier's chest, piercing armor, flesh and bone, expecting him to crumple lifelessly to the ground like every other enemy he had killed. But this time, Xander felt pure shock course through him as the impaled human grabbed the knife, pulled it out with a roar of pain and fury, and kept fighting, as if he hadn't just been stabbed through the heart. Xander stared blankly at the grimy wall of the remote space station's dimly lit bar. The haunting memory of battling those seemingly invincible human soldiers on Kepler 7 seared into his brain. He took a long swig of rocket fuel to steady his trembling hands. His old war buddy Xyloth slid onto the stool next to him, immediately noticing the shell-shocked look in Xander's eyes. "I've seen that 1,000-yard stare before," Xyloth said. "Usually from soldiers who just watched their whole squad get slaughtered. What the hell happened to you?" Xander's knuckles whitened as he gripped his glass. "Kepler 7. My platoon was sent to crush a small human garrison. Our commanders said it would be an easy win. We outnumbered them 3-1. We had them outgunned. It should have been a massacre." He shook his head, struggling to find the words. "These humans, by the stars, Xyloth, I've battled the toughest warriors from 100 worlds. But humans, they're something else." Xyloth leaned closer. He had heard whispers about the tenacity and brutality of human soldiers. Xander was a hardened veteran, a born killer. If humans had rattled him this badly, Xyloth knew this was a story he needed to hear. "Start from the beginning," Xyloth said. "Tell me everything." Xander took a deep breath. "It all started when our ships entered orbit around Kepler 7. Xander clenched his fist, his claws digging into his skin as he was brought back to that brutal fight planetside. "We hit their outer perimeter and drove the humans back easy, blasted through their flimsy barricades. Our commander was already celebrating our imminent victory, ordered us to charge their main base to deliver the killing blow." He took another long swig, slamming his empty glass on the bar. "That's when it all went to hell. As soon as we broke from cover, sprinting across that damned red soil, the humans opened up on us. It was a fucking slaughter. I've never seen weapons like that. Rapid projectiles just tore through our armor like it was made of paper." Xander's hands were shaking now. He could still hear the screams of his squadmates, could still see their broken bodies littering the battlefield. "I don't know how, but we kept pushing forward, getting cut to pieces every step, but we had our orders, kept throwing ourselves against their walls." Xyloth shifted uncomfortably. He had been in his share of bloody battles, but this was something else entirely. "That's when I saw him," Xander continued, his voice low and haunted. "This human, their commander, he was like a force of nature. Everywhere you looked, there he was, rallying his troops, blasting my soldiers. It was like he was 10 men in one." Xander shuddered as he remembered those fierce, determined eyes, that unwavering resolve as this human commander led his men again and again to repel the Xenari assault. For hours we fought, throwing everything we had at them. But they never broke, never yielded an inch, just kept fighting even as their base crumbled around them. Xander gritted his teeth as he recalled the final brutal confrontation with the indomitable human commander. "There I was, standing in the bombed-out ruins of their command center," Xander said. "When he emerged from the smoke and debris like a demon out of hell, Commander Harris himself in the flesh." Xyloth's eyes widened. He'd heard stories of the fearsome human leader, whispered in hushed tones among the Xenari ranks, a relentless, unbreakable warrior who had turned the tide of battle on a dozen worlds. Xander and Harris circled each other amidst the rubble, two battered warriors sizing each other up. Both were wounded, exhausted, pushed beyond the brink of endurance. But neither would back down. With a roar, Harris charged, smashing into Xander with bone-jarring force. They grappled, trading savage blows, Xander's claws raking across Harris's combat armor as the human's armored fists pummeled his flesh. Xander had battled warriors of 100 species, but never had he faced an opponent like Jordan Harris. The human matched him blow for blow, no matter how many wounds he took. There was a fire in his eyes, an unbreakable will that refused to succumb. Around them the battle raged, the last remnants of the human defenders fighting to the bitter end as the Zanari closed in. Harris's men fell one by one, but still he fought on, never faltering, never yielding. In that moment, as they clashed amidst the chaos and death, Xander felt a growing sense of respect for this incredible foe. What drove these humans, he wondered, to fight with such passion, such indomitable spirit? The duel seemed to last an eternity. Both combatants pushed to the limits of their strength and will, but a chance misstep on a piece of rubble finally tipped the balance. Xander seized his opportunity, tackling Harris to the ground and pressing his blade to the human's throat. But even with defeat staring him in the face, the fire in Harris's eyes remained undiminished. He glared up at Xander, defiant to the end, daring him to strike the killing blow. In that moment, Xander knew he could not do it, could not snuff out the life of so worthy an adversary. His warrior's code, his sense of honor, would not allow it. Slowly, Xander stood, stepping back from the fallen human. He snapped a salute, a gesture of respect from one soldier to another. Harris, battered but unbroken, climbed to his feet and returned the salute. Then he turned and vanished into the ruins, to fight on or to make his escape. Xander never knew. Xyloth leaned back, stunned by the tale. "I've never heard of a Zanari letting a human live," he said. "Why did you do it?" Xander stared into his empty glass, turning it in his clawed hands. "In that moment," he said slowly, "I saw something in Harris, in all those humans, something I've never seen before. A spirit, a strength of will, that goes beyond anything I ever imagined. It shook me to my core." Xyloth leaned back, amazed by the tale of Harris's last stand. So what happened after? How did it all end? Xander's face darkened, his eyes haunted by the memories. "We won, in the end, if you can call it that. Our forces took heavy losses, but we had the numbers. Sheer attrition. We captured the survivors, occupied what was left of their base." He took a long pull of his drink, savoring the burn. "I was tasked with interrogating the prisoners, trying to understand what made them fight like that, like their lives didn't matter, only the mission." Xyloth nodded. Standard practice to debrief captured enemies. Glean whatever intel you could, but he could tell from Xander's tone that this was different. "They wouldn't talk," Xander continued. "Not a word. We questioned them for days, offered deals, threatened them. Nothing. They just stared at us, silent, defiant, like they were mocking us, even in chains." He slammed his fist on the bar, making the glasses rattle. The anger was still raw even now. "I even questioned Harris myself. He was in bad shape, beaten to hell. But even then, he just looked at me with those damn eyes, unbroken." Xander could still picture that cell, the dim light, the blood. Harris sitting there, calm as a stone. I asked him straight out, what drove him? What drove all of them? And you know what he said? Xyloth waited, the bar seeming to hold its breath. "We're human," Xander said, his voice a hoarse whisper. "We don't know how to give up." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Xyloth felt a chill run down his spine. "That's when I realized," Xander said. "That's their secret, their strength, not their guns, not their ships. It's that spirit, that will. They don't surrender, don't break, no matter what." He looked at Xyloth, his eyes hard. "And that's why we need to be afraid. Why the Empire needs to think hard before taking them on. Because how do you beat an enemy that doesn't know how to lose?" Xyloth had no answer. He just stared into his drink, Xander's words echoing in his mind. The humans' indomitable will, their refusal to yield. It was a chilling thought for a soldier, for an empire. Xander stood abruptly, tossing a credit chip on the bar. "Thanks for the drink," he said. "And the ear. I needed to get that off my chest." Xyloth nodded, still processing all he'd heard. "Any time, friend, you going to be okay?" Xander shrugged, a haunted smile on his lips. "Who knows? All I know is I'll never forget Kepler-7 or Jordan Harris, and I don't think the Empire will either, once they realize what they're up against." With that, he turned and strode out of the bar, leaving Xyloth alone with his thoughts and a growing sense of unease about the future of the war. The image of Harris, beaten but unbroken, staring down his captors with unwavering resolve, lingered long after Xander had gone, a spectre of the battles to come. Xyloth motioned to the bartender for another round. He had a feeling he was going to need it. As Xander finishes his harrowing tale, Xyloth leans back in his chair, his mind reeling. He looks at his friend, seeing the haunted look in his eyes, and asks the question burning in his mind. What happened to Harris and the other human prisoners after the battle? Xander's expression darkens, his claws tightening around his empty glass. He stares into the distance as if seeing the ghosts of his past. The Zanari High Command, they didn't see the humans as I did. To them, they were just a threat to be eliminated. He takes a deep breath, his voice low and strained. They ordered the execution of all the prisoners, every last one. They thought it would crush the human spirit, make them easier to conquer. Xyloth's eyes widen in shock. And you? Xander meets his gaze, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. I was the one tasked with carrying out the order, but I couldn't do it, Xyloth. Not after what I'd seen, what I'd learned about them. He leans forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. I made a choice. I defied my orders, arranged for Harris and the others to escape. Xyloth stares at him, stunned. You risked everything. Xander nods, a bitter smile on his lips. And I paid the price, branded a traitor, forced to flee into exile. I've been running ever since. He looks down at his clawed hands, remembering the blood they've spilled. But I don't regret it, not for a moment. The humans, their spirit, their will, it's something to admire, not destroy. Xander falls silent, lost in thought. Xyloth tries to process all he's heard, the implications of Xander's tale, the strength of the human spirit, the lengths they'll go to resist. It's a chilling thought. Finally, Xander drains his glass and stands, his movements heavy with the weight of his memories. He looks at Xyloth, a deep sadness in his eyes. For the humans, they're different from us, Xyloth, in ways we can't even imagine, and if we ever face them in a real war. He doesn't finish the thought, just shakes his head and turns to leave. Where will you go? Xyloth asks, almost afraid to hear the answer. Xander pauses at the door, looking back over his shoulder. Somewhere far away from here, somewhere the Empire won't find me. Then he's gone, vanishing into the crowded streets of the station, leaving Xyloth alone with his thoughts and a growing sense of unease about the future. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, I liked the story, and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.